Welcome! In this video we will look at loading graphics files with the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. Today we're going to look at loading graphics inside a graphics window within the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. I've prepared a skeleton of the program that we're going to use to load these files. All credit for most of this code goes to Gary Bean and Dave Biggs from the PowerBasic forums. Also, that is heavily based on the work done by Jose Roca, who is a legend in the PowerBasic community. So what we've got here is a PowerBasic Windows source file. We have a constant setup, which is the name of the image we're going to be loading, and the image itself is this. So we're going to load this into a window inside a dialog. So we're creating a new dialog with the settings as pixels as opposed to units. Normally when you create a dialog it will create as units by default, and we're setting the location and the size of this dialog on screen, but this will be amended when our file loads, and we're showing the dialog modally. So this really is the skeleton. So in order for this to work, there's a couple of user-defined types we need to set up. The first one is GDIPlus startup input. We're going to be using the Windows GDI libraries to perform this task, and the second type we wish to set up is GDIPlus startup output. Now, in order to call these routines inside the GDIPlus library, there are a number of declares we'll have to do so we can access the functions inside that library. So we will paste them in. These do a number of functions: setting up the GDIPlus library, shutting it down, loading an image from file, getting the image width and the image height, so you know the size of the image, and a number of other ones to draw the image, dispose of our image, and delete any graphics. Basically a tidy up once the program's actually done. So having defined our dialog, what we're going to do when the dialog gets initialized is to load the graphics file. So we're going to set some local variables up first of all to handle the information we're going to be using in here. Now in our callback function, which is our event handler, we need to put the code in to handle what happens when our dialog is actually created. Now we're going to create a local variable which is going to be a handle to the bitmap we're going to create from the graphics file we're loading in. So we're going to create a new function called load image file, which is going to load our image and return the size of the image and the bitmap handle. Now we're going to have a number of parameters in here. First of all will be the path and the name of the file we wish to load. And then we'll have two parameters which are going to be the size of the bitmap, and the final parameter is the handle of the bitmap itself. Now if we cannot load the bitmap for whatever reason, we'll throw a message box out to the user just to let them know we couldn't load it. So on the assumption we have actually managed to load the bitmap, now we'll create the function that actually does the loading shortly. What we want to do now is to first of all set our dialog. Now we're going to make the image fit the size, the client size of the dialog. So we're going to use the two values we got back from the call, basically to set the size of the client area. Now we will add our graphics control to the dialog. We will position it at the top left hand corner of the dialog, and we're going to put in the size of that area, which is going to be the same size as our graphic. Now, having done that, we now want to attach our graphic control. And finally, copy the bitmap we have in memory onto the graphic control. Using the handle, and the final parameter is 0. And then finally, tell it we are actually finished with the bitmap. Now all we have to do is to create the fun load image. Now, as we saw before, there are a number of parameters on this one, which are basically the path and name of the file, and 3 output parameters. One for the width, one for the height, and a final one which will be a handle to the bitmap. So we're going to load our graphics file, which can be a JPG, a GIF, or a PNG file. Now we will put in some local variables to handle all of this. 3 D words, an image, a graphics, and a DC handle, token, and a user-defined type, which is our GDIPlus startup input. Now, before we proceed any further, it's always good to test to make sure the file does or doesn't exist before we go any further. And we can use that using the isFile function. So if the file doesn't exist, then there's no point in continuing. So if we get this far, the file must exist. So what we'll want to do first is to initialize the GDIPlus library, and once that's initialized, we're going to load the image and then get the properties. So we're going to turn the image file name into a Unicode string. We're going to call the GDI load image from file function inside the GDI library with our Unicode file name, and we're using pimage as a handle. Now that's loaded it in from file. The next thing we want to do is to get the width and the height of the bitmap we're pulling in, and there are 2 functional libraries we can actually use, a getImageWidth and a getImageHeight, and we're loading those values into the 2 variables which we'll be passing back to the calling routine. Then we go back to using the PowerBasic commands. And we're going to use our 2 variables for the width and the height. And we're passing that back to the bitmap handle. And then another graphics attach. Now we have to use another couple of functions to get a graphic object in place. One to create it from a handle we've just picked up, and one to draw the image to the memory bitmap. And at the very end, we need to do some tidying up, and that will clean up the variables we used in our GDI routines. Finally, we need to shut down the GDIPlus library. And if we've got this far, the function has been successful. So let's try a quick compile just to make sure we haven't missed anything. Yes, we have. Should be IMG. And I made exactly the same mistake in here. Helps when you name the variables correctly. Very close. Again, another issue in here. Typo in the name. And we are now compiling cleanly. So, just to let you see what the image we're going to be loading looks like, this is the image we're going to be loading from the file. This is computer.png. If we run the program now, the file is loaded in quite happily into our dialog. So just to test it works with the other types of files, yes, I suspect I did something wrong there. It should be width and height. So if we run the program now, it should, oh, we've still got it running. Close that down. The dialog's too big. The dialog should size with the size of the image. So if we run that now, that should hopefully display the image in the dialog with nothing else in the way, which it has done. So what we've got in the folder is, as well as the PNG file, we have a JPEG and a GIF file. So if we load them in by changing the extension, firstly to GIF, run our program now, and the GIF is displaying quite happily. Change to JPEG, and our program's running quite happily loading that as well. So there we have it. You can actually load JPEGs, GIFs or PNGs. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.